Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your weekly dose of the NFL, where I talk about the latest happenings in the NFL via Instagram posts. Quick first thing I wanted to talk about right off the bat, Week 7 power rankings. I would really love to know the methodology behind these power rankings, because I always thought the power rankings were, what team do you think is actually the best? You know, they're not playing the best right now, but like there's no way if I was creating power rankings, I would put the Cardinals first. I understand. Listen, if it's based on best record, yes, the Cardinals are the best. They're the only undefeated team in the NFL. But if you're seriously doing power rankings where you're invoking your own opinion into these rankings, I don't understand some of the Cardinals being first. I would put the Bucks over the Cardinals. I would put the Rams over the Cardinals. Just something like the Chiefs at number 11. I wouldn't have them at 1, not what they've shown me, but still they have Patrick Mahomes. I would probably put them 5th or 6th. So it's interesting, the whole idea with power rankings. I thought power rankings were your own opinion on who the actual best teams are. Obviously, the Chiefs right now are not playing like the 5th or 6th best team in the NFL, but the expectation is a deep playoff run from them. So I just thought that was something interesting. Does this mean the Jets are better than the Bills? I cannot believe the Titans lost to the Jets. I simply cannot believe that. I understand. The weird thing with that game, if you guys remember, the Titans were playing for a tie. They were literally kicking a field goal in overtime with, was it like 3 seconds left? With no time left, to where if the Titans would have made the field goal, it would have ended in a tie. And they missed the field goal, so the Jets won in overtime. Starting to feel like the Texans are going to be this year's Jaguars. Win the first game and lose the rest. Listen, if you're a Titan, they'll probably get 1 or 2 more wins, but if you're a Titans fan, you should absolutely be rooting for your team to lose. Winning does nothing. I understand maybe you want to see if Davis Mills could be a franchise quarterback. I think they reached heavily for Davis Mills. He was not a second-round type prospect. He needs massive development, things like that. You still are going to be in need of a franchise quarterback. If you're a Titans fan, you should want 2 things. Number 1, the Deshaun Watson situation goes away, meaning Deshaun Watson pays off the women, or that situation gets resolved. He's still going to want out of Houston, but now you have so much more value from Deshaun Watson. Everyone, now that people know he's going to play, so they're going to give you more first-round picks. And also, the other thing you should root for, lose every game. Try and get the number 1 overall pick, whether it's a quarterback. Everyone keeps saying it's a weak quarterback class, whatever. People just like running with narratives. I don't think it's that weak of a quarterback class when you actually evaluate it. I really love Sam Howell. I understand he hasn't had that great of a year, but if you're a Houston Texans fan, 2 things. Deshaun Watson stuff goes away, so you can trade him for, his actual value, and then lose all these games. You should lose them. Like Jacksonville last year, they won the first game, they completely tanked. There's no reason to win. If you can get the number 1 overall pick, what's the point of winning 4 games versus winning 1 game when the difference is maybe, a subpar quarterback versus Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, you want that top quarterback. So keep losing. Most hated NFL teams in each state according to Google. What are your thoughts on this? I'm surprised the Raiders have that many states, first of all. Same thing with Philadelphia. I guess there's a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans in New Mexico, things like that. But how about Alaska hating on the 49ers? How about Pennsylvania? It surprises me. I guess Philadelphia, but you would think Pennsylvania would be the Ravens. That's what I would personally think. The state of Ohio being Pittsburgh doesn't surprise me at all. Updated leaderboards here through week 6. Brady leads everyone in passing yards. How about Derek Carr coming in second? Mahomes, everyone has said he's kind of struggled. He's really struggled with the interceptions, but still third. Stafford, Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott could lead the league in passing yards, depending with that offense that they have. Passing touchdowns, Patrick Mahomes. So, again, with Mahomes, it's really just been the interceptions. The touchdowns are there. Mahomes, Brady, Stafford, Prescott, and Josh Allen. Matt Stafford has a legitimate chance at the MVP. He really does. Every team's turnover ratio. I thought this was just something interesting to look at. The Bills plus 11. I believe this is through week 6. The reason I wanted to show this, the Kansas City Chiefs minus 8 turnover ratio, and they're 3-3 on the year. You think they correct that a little bit, they'll be winning a lot more. But very interesting stuff there. The Cleveland Browns injury report. Baker Mayfield just got ruled out earlier today for the Thursday Night Football game against Denver. That line has since moved. The Browns were minus 3.5. They're down to minus 1.5. You've got Kareem Hunt out, Baker Mayfield out, Nick Chubb out, both your starting tackles. Maybe Jack Conklin plays. We'll have to see. Possibly both your starting tackles out. Myles Garrett, that's a minor injury. Odell Beckham, we're hearing, could be out. So that injury list is crazy. The Browns just completely depleted by injuries. And this whole Baker Mayfield situation is so interesting because they, accepted the option. So Baker's going to be back next year with that 50-year team option, for his rookie deal, no matter what. But it's, Baker Mayfield looked phenomenal week 1 at Kansas City. Week 2 gets injured. He's been playing with that injury. He hasn't looked well. He hasn't played well at all. You're in kind of this weird contract flux. My personal opinion, what they're doing, they're giving him this week off because it's a really short week. He re-injured it. He re-injured his shoulder on Sunday. Giving him the week off. It's too short of a week. Rest him up and then see if he can manage and play with this pain. It is his non-throwing shoulder. And the Browns, this is a lot of injuries, but as a backup quarterback, Case Keenum is legitimately, for a backup, is a good player. For a backup. He knows Kevin Stefanski's offense. He's played starting quarterback in this offense before. He's going to be with Dearness Johnson. I hope Dearness Johnson has a really good game. I hope he has randomly just 3 touchdowns. It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing to see, but that should be an interesting Thursday night game. Probably very low scoring with that good Denver defense facing a backup quarterback. How it started versus how it's going. There is the Denver Broncos along with Carolina. I think everyone saw this coming to a degree. Maybe people didn't think they'd lose 3 games in a row, both of these teams, but we saw this coming. I mean, your starting quarterbacks are Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold. It's probably not going to work out great. Week 6 takeaways. Jalen Hurts needs to lead more consistent drives if he wants to be a long-term starter. That is still a question mark. Is Jalen Hurts a long-term starting quarterback in this league? He's had some good games. He's had some bad moments. Hopefully, for Philadelphia's sake, they'll get some level of answer. Right now, he just seems kind of like a middle-of-the-road starting quarterback. The Rams are utterly dominant on both sides of the ball, top 5 offense and defense. Yeah, they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. The Colts need to give Jonathan Taylor the ball a lot more to have success this year. That's a storyline. There's a lot of Jonathan Taylor fantasy owners that are very upset with the usage rate currently of Nyheim Hines, the backup running back. And it is pretty crazy. Nyheim Hines it's almost like a 50-50 split. And these Jonathan Taylor fantasy owners, the guys that are averaging 6 yards per carry, they drafted him 7th overall, 8th overall in the first round, thinking he was going to be a bell cow getting 25 touches. It is kind of frustrating. The Ravens cemented themselves as AFC contenders this week. Blow out the Chargers. Yeah, they were always AFC contenders. They were AFC contenders before this week. No coach, no problem. Cardinals continue their undefeated streak. Definitely an impressive streak. And they're definitely a contender in the NFC. Darnold still hasn't shown that he's a franchise quarterback. Yeah, no, he hasn't. People way overrated Darnold after his first 2 games. There was that whole narrative that he needed to get away from the Jets. Listen, the Jets was definitely a horrific situation for any rookie quarterback to come into. But it's not like Sam Darnold is this, Jesus-type character who just got thrust into a horrific situation. He has some significant flaws, and they're rearing their ugly head in this 3-game losing streak for Carolina. Trevon Diggs is the most controversial player in the NFL right now. It's interesting because, Trevon Diggs getting all these interceptions, 7 interceptions, but there was a PFF stat floating around that he also led the league or was one of the top 3 or 4 players in most yards allowed. So he's giving up a lot of yards trying to jump routes, get interceptions. I think it's worth it. Listen, he's not going to maintain this, but if you're getting a turnover a game, you're getting an interception a game, it's worth jumping some routes and giving up some yards. Again, I don't think he's going to maintain that. He's not going to have 16 interceptions this year. But yeah, he definitely is controversial. Some people think he's great. Other people think he gives up too many yards. It's kind of a combination. He's not the best cornerback in the league, but if you're going to get an interception a game, you're going to be a top 10 cornerback very easily. Tennessee looks much improved from earlier this season. Yeah, it's hard not to. You remember their week 1 performance against Arizona. So this is the current draft order for 2022, and I want you guys to pay attention. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles draft capital currently. The 3rd overall pick, which would come via the Dolphins, the 8th overall pick, which is their own, and the 9th overall pick, which would come from the Colts. I think the Colts are going to be a little bit better than they've been, so that pick should probably go down. The Dolphins as well, I think the Dolphins will win 4 or 5 games, so that pick should be worse. But this sets up, if you're Philadelphia, the 3rd pick, the 8th pick, and the 9th pick, oh my goodness, they already have an infrastructure built. This draft could completely change the trajectory of their franchise. The Lions also have the 1st pick, and I believe that's the 28th pick from LA. We know that trade with Matt Stafford. The Giants also have 2 picks inside of the top 16, including the 5th overall pick, and then the 16th overall pick from the Bears. That dates back to the Justin Fields trade, of course. Fun fact, now this is a mind-blowing statistic that a lot of, especially fantasy people, know about. Jacoby Myers has the most catches in NFL history without a touchdown. 116 catches in his career, 0 touchdowns. It's almost like this is becoming a big-time story every week. How many catches is he going to finally get a touchdown? 116 catches, 0 touchdowns is crazy. Some more Week 6 takeaways. Derrick Henry is undoubtedly the best running back in the league and a top 5 player. I mean, okay. Belichick's conservative play calling has just about killed the Pats' playoff chances. See, I don't know if I can't agree with that. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. And this is what the Patriots are literally just going to baby Mac Jones. He's a rookie quarterback. They're going to try and keep him from making, from having significant game-changing, game-altering turnovers like many of the rookie quarterbacks have. So I don't know if I'd agree with that. Vic Fangio will be fired. Teddy Bridgewater isn't good. I like Vic Fangio's defense, I'll tell you that much. The Colts need to feed Jonathan Taylor. He's averaging 6 yards a carry in their last 4 games. Boy, fantasy owners are, do these guys have Jonathan Taylor on their fantasy team or something? I understand you want more carries. The Jets won the Jamal Adams trade. It's impossible to defend Adams any longer. Jamal Adams he's still a good player. He simply doesn't affect the game in a big enough way to rationalize the contract that he's getting, the trade that happened. Did the Jets get 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams? I think they did, because I would remember that, and I'm remembering I think they got 2 first-round picks. That's pretty crazy. CeeDee Lamb has arrived. He's the number 1 wide receiver in Dallas. With Amari Cooper, I mean, they're a 1A, 1B. I would say CeeDee's 1A, but with Amari Cooper there, it's not like he's the clear-cut number 1 receiver. Amari Cooper's still going to have big weeks when he's healthy. Miles Sanders is Philly's best skill position player, yet they refuse to run him. I mean, Devontae Smith is a rookie, but I think Devontae Smith's going to develop into their best skill position player. Rushing yards leaders after week 6, Derrick Henry is already closing in on 1,000 yards. Derrick Henry is such a cheat code. This is an interesting graphic of the last 8 number 1 overall picks. Kyler Murray definitely developing into a franchise quarterback. Jadeveon Clowney, kind of that, freak athlete who really hasn't lived up to his potential, but he's still getting pressures for the Browns. He's still a good player, good pass rusher. Jameis Winston, kind of a journeyman average starter. Baker Mayfield, a lot of question marks. Is he a franchise quarterback or not? I don't know if any of them are going to get answered with this injury. I mean, if he plays bad, he can just say, well, it's due to the shoulder injury. It's a tough situation right now in Cleveland. This is the worst possible situation to where Baker Mayfield, you're trying to evaluate if you want to give this guy, $36 million guaranteed per year, and he has this shoulder ailment, which may or may not be affecting his play. Myles Garrett, definitely been a hit, one of the top pass rushers in the NFL. Joe Burrow looks like he's on his way to being a franchise quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, still too early, but I would be very surprised if he wasn't at least a franchise quarterback or decent. And then Jared Goff, serviceable starter, would be a really good backup, but he's not a starter on a really great team at this point. I know he had the years with the Rams. I think Sean McVay had a lot to do with that. Who has the best future? Tier 1 could win a Super Bowl in the next few years. Tier 2, their fans should be elated. I don't know. Carolina fans should be elated. They don't have a quarterback. I don't know if I agree with that. The Bengals are a good young team. San Francisco, the Trey Lance. If Trey Lance turns out to be good, San Francisco is going to be so good with that defense. The Chargers, young quarterback. Vikings probably need a quarterback pretty soon, although Kirk Cousins gets too much hate. He's one of the underrated quarterbacks. Looking down, win now, ask questions later. Yeah, the Buccaneers, I mean, they're very old. They're just trying to win Super Bowls right now with Brady being as old as he is. Seattle, with Russell Wilson's situation, that's tough. Tennessee, I guess we'll see with Ryan Tannehill. And then LA, I mean, they never drafted in the first round. LA, the Rams have a very interesting strategy where they just don't care about first round picks. They figure our first round pick is going to be 28th or 29th. What's the value in that? I'd rather trade for an established starter rather than developing some player. That's why they traded 2 first round picks for Matt Stafford, 2 first round picks for Jalen Ramsey. So interesting strategy. Don't know what the future holds. Yeah, I think the Houston Texans are the definition of that with the Deshaun Watson situation. The Raiders with the whole John Gruden thing, they're definitely a franchise that's questioning stuff. the Falcons, what's happening with Matt Ryan. I think, bold prediction here, I think this is Matt Ryan's last year with the Falcons. He still has maybe 2 solid years left in him, but I think that'll be with, a different franchise, maybe a team that has more skill position players around him. And then the Steelers, we'll have to see what the Steelers do at the quarterback position next year. That is definitely an unknown. Will they try and trade for a guy like Deshaun Watson? It'd be crazy. Here is Deshaun Watson watching John Gruden lose his job while he makes $30 million a year with 21 sexual assault cases. So, it's just speculation what I think will happen. You pay the woman off, whatever, you just get out of that situation. I think right now the NFL is basically punting and saying, time heals wounds. So there was a lot of outrage with the Deshaun Watson stuff this past summer. You take a full year off where Deshaun Watson is not playing. He's inactive every game. And then the situation kind of goes away, and the Texans then trade Deshaun Watson for maybe 2 first-round picks. I don't know what kind of value they could get for him, but if he is cleared to play, and he's not on the commissioner's exempt list right now, it's such a weird situation with Deshaun Watson. The NFL is basically saying, let's just time heals wounds. Maybe they'll forget about it, and technically it really does. I mean, people are going to be less outraged, in a year from now than they are right now, or they were in the summer. It just makes more sense like that. So here are some hot takes. Adam Gase is a good coach. He just had horrible players. Remember when people thought Adam Gase was this offensive guru with the Denver Broncos when they had Peyton Manning back in like 2013? When Denver broke all these records, Adam Gase was the offensive coordinator. That's how he became the head coach, because people were like, oh, look at how great their offense is. Yeah, no, it's not due to Peyton Manning. It's due to Adam Gase. Cam Hayward is NFL's most underrated defensive player. I agree with that. And Pro Football Focus loves Cam Hayward. PFF, I was watching the Sunday night game, the Steelers and the Seahawks, and they put their little PFF grade underneath it, and he was first among D linemen, and he really is an underrated player. He's really good. Doesn't get really the sack numbers, but affects the game, gets a lot of pressures, and he grades out really high apparently. Jamal Adams is slowly proving his haters right. So, a lot of people are starting to talk about Jamal Adams not being worth the money, not being worth what the Seahawks traded for him. It's just not enough impact plays. The 2 career interceptions, ouch. It's pretty crazy. If you switch Brady and Rodgers, Tom becomes a nobody with 0 rings. That's another video. I can't start talking about that. That'd be a whole nother video for another time. That's a whole nother conversation, getting into something like that. If Calvin Johnson played in the 80s, 90s, he wouldn't be as good. What? Calvin Johnson is a physical freak. What, because they didn't pass the ball as much in the 80s, 90s? I'm not understanding what they're trying to say here. His Calvin Johnson would be able to translate to any sort of time frame just due to he's just a physical freak. I don't know what they're saying. Stephon Gilmore earned his Defensive Player of the Year award in 2019. He did. Stephon Gilmore, he gets released by New England. People say, now he's not so. But in 2019, you know how hard it is to win, a Defensive Player of the Year award as a cornerback. He definitely deserved it. He was an island at that point, at that year. Really good. Guarantee a W for one team. So this is week number 7 matchups. I could go, very easy and say, oh, the Rams are going to win, against the Lions at home. But I'm going to give a little curveball here. I'm very confident the Eagles are going to beat the Raiders. Very confident. It's a feel. It's a gut. I was saying it in my betting video yesterday. That's the game I feel confident about. Eagles over the Raiders, my bold prediction. You could guarantee a win, and say, oh, the Cardinals are going to be the Texans. What fun is that? That's not fun at all. Who is better than their record? The Seahawks at 2-4. You really can't grade the Seahawks right now because Russell Wilson's going to be basically out until like week 15 or so. You can't grade them. I think the 49ers are definitely better than their record at 2-3. Kansas City obviously is better once Mahomes stops turning the ball over so much. The Vikings, I think they're basically a 500 team. I think they're right at the record. Same thing with the Steelers. I think they're going to finish 9-8 or 8-9, one of those two. Washington 2-4. Washington's defense has been a bit of a disappointment this year. Chase Young, he is getting double teamed, but overall Washington probably a 6 or 7 win team. Your starting quarterback is Taylor Heineke. I mean, what do you expect at that point? And then the ultimate troll. So the NFL tweets out like the jersey and then their stats. Have a day, whoever. Have a day, Tom Brady, and it tweets out their stats like that with the jersey. Look at the format. John Gruden, 142 emails, 76 slurs used, 15 groups offended. forced to resign. I thought that was just funny. Little way to end off the video. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. We've got week number 7. You know, it's tough to keep these weeks straight because college football, we're going into week number 8. NFL, we're going into week 7. I'm trying to keep everything straight. We just had week 6 of the NFL. But guys, follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.